Hey guys, welcome to my channel where if you know, you can grow. So let's erase our doubt and let's pay attention because it's always something to learn. What's going on today, guys? Alright, so we're going to talk about the things that you need to be able to get your indoor jungle thriving like a pro. Alright, so I know that it may seem a little bit overwhelming when you see somebody with a lot of plants, or if you have 3 or 4 plants at the house, especially if one of them maybe not doing too well. But that's not what we're going to focus on. We're going to focus on making sure all of your plants are at optimal level, and just some of the things that I wish I would have known when I started that I could share with you to get you in the right direction. Let's dive in. If there's ever a time of questioning of whether or not you should own house plants, you definitely should. Plants are quiet. They're the company that don't keep a fuss. And plants don't require as much work as you think that they do. Once you get their lighting situated, once you figure out their water needs, they're pretty much a set and go type of thing. But I can see how you can run into some issues if you don't know what you're doing. So I know you've heard of a couple of great starting plants. Everybody's gone in and has hit the Google, but I'm here to make sure that some of those myths are actually just myths. Let's validate on some of these. A ZZ plant, a snake plant, a pothos, a philodendron, and I'll even say a monstera are some of your great starting plants. They require minimum light, minimum care needs, and they don't take up as much space as you think. Well, the monstera does grow to be a little big, but everything else pretty much shoots up or vines down, so you're pretty much good. Let's get into the cost. Guys, the best place to buy your plants from when you're starting off is either your local nursery or your big box stores. I know big box stores get a bad rep, but the fact is they're a lot cheaper than a lot of your local nurseries. I'm all for supporting businesses, but I'm not going to go and spend $20 on a plant that I can get for $6. I feel like the business should have thought about that when they came to their pricing. Unless it's a rare plant or unless it's something that I'm not able to find either online for a cheap price or at a big box store, that's the only time that I'm actually in my local nursery. I use my local nursery for plant supplies, not plants, plant supplies. Now, when you're first starting off, when you go in there to get those plant supplies, you will get some of those plants. But let me just tell you, I spent 3 times more on buying plants from my local nurseries than I would have from just a big box store or online. So I want to share that with you. So we talked a little bit about finding the right spot. Finding the right spot for the placement of your plant is essential, guys. You definitely want to make sure it's in a well-lit area or at least in a place in which it can receive some light. If you cannot give it natural light, there are options like grow lights. In addition to your grow lights, you want to make sure you're using proper pots and soil types. So let's get into this. This right here is pretty much the size pot that we call a 4-inch standard pot. This is what all of your plants that you buy that are small, that are babies, should be in. You do not want your plant to be in a pot this size. This is our next size up. This is pretty much about a 6-inch pot. When you are first getting into your plants, the first thing we want to do is come home and immediately repot. Stop. Don't do that. When you buy your plants from any type of store, they need to come into your home or wherever they're at, office, so forth. They need to acclimate. Acclimate allows the temperature that's around to be able to line up with the soil, because that plays a major factor into how thirsty your plant is going to be. If you have a real humid place, your plant is going to suck up water a lot quicker, which means your plant's going to dry out. When your plant dries out, it starts looking very frail, very dense and yellowing. You just don't want those problems. We also don't want a problem with overwatering, which causes root rot as well. More on that later. It's a big difference, and it leaves a lot of potential things to go wrong. So pot size is important. Next, we want to get into our soil mix. Now, this right here, I don't get paid, I don't get sponsored from this, so I'm just giving this to you because you know I like to drop my jewels. This right here, guys, straight out the bag, is gold. I know the brand says black gold, it really is. Don't be caught up in orchid mix. Just because you see orchid mix doesn't mean you can't use it in other plants. My philodendrons, monsteras, What else have I planted? I planted one more other, Signonium. All of it. And it's quick, it's simple. You don't have to worry about making your own mix and trying to Google how to put the ratios in. None of that. This straight out the bag is great. Now, I will say making your own mix does give your plant a slight advantage because you're able to add stuff like charcoal. Maybe you don't care too much for orchid bark and you want to just do a lot of perlite. I use a mixture of both. That's totally up to you. Being able to do that allows you to be able to create whatever you want your mix to be. Now, if you don't know what you're doing, don't pop out and do that. I had to learn the hard way. First thing I wanted to do was make my own soil because that's what I saw everybody else doing. You know what happened? I lost a lot of plants. I didn't know exactly what my plants was. I didn't know what an airy mix was. Even though I watched people do it, it still took some time to actually comprehend the whole purpose of what an airy mix is, what a fast draining mix is. I was putting perlite in with a lot of peat moss. Two negatives, defeating the purpose. Well, perlite was positive, peat moss was negative in a way that that peat moss is going to hold everything. The perlite is going to try to drain everything. Well, it does no good when you got something trying to hold everything, something trying to drain everything. You put them in together, they're not going to mesh pretty well. So, pots and soils are very important. Now, let's get into some of the tools that I have found to be beneficial over a course of time. Let's see here. You definitely want to have some type of plant food. I did not feed my plants for like a year and a half, maybe almost 2 years. I just did water. It was because I had a bad experience. I went to the store, bought some fish fertilizer, which just is fish poop as well. Bought it, watered like 70% of my collection. A lot of them went yellow. Some of them are still here. Well, most of them are still here, but a lot of them went yellow. After that one time, that's all it took. I said, nope, I'm not doing it again. And I stayed away from it. Huge mistake. First off, it was me. I know. I didn't read the label in the back that said how to mix the water ratio. I just poured some, shook some, and kept it moving. You can get away with that with some stuff. Food, which is probably why it's my favorite. It has the instruction for how they recommend you use it. I still kind of just do my own little thing, put a little bit in, mix it. I make sure I don't over pour, but I do make sure that I am following some type of system because I do not want my plants to become yellow like that did before. So, feed your plants, guys. You have to have it. So, food. Another thing is you definitely want to have some good soil. Oh, guys, this is probably the most important. Drain trays. I am not playing with you guys. Listen, I can never have enough of these. I'm gonna let you in on a secret. Wasn't even watering my plants enough because I didn't want to have to worry about the water draining out the bottom and getting on the floor or getting on any type of thing. Yeah, wasn't watering my plants properly because I didn't have these. So get these. They're very cheap. You can go to Amazon and get like a 20 pack for I think like $15. Probably get more than that. I'm not for sure. Now, they do sell these at your local big box store, but I'm gonna tell you, they're like $1.94 a piece for plastic. Not flying in my book. So, another key thing that you want to have are going to be pruners or trimmers. These, you can use, these are scissors or trimmers. These are also trimmers. Now, guys, make sure you are cleaning your tools. This is key. These right here, these two right here, they have the ability to hit this whole room up. They have the ability to cut whatever plants that you have at your house. And remember, if you have some germs that's going on upstairs or across the hall and you cut that, guys, these pests can live on these scissors or stuff for days. These thrips, these mealy bugs, they're not going anywhere. They're chilling. So unless you are properly sanitizing your trimmers immediately after, you definitely need to be wiping them down before you use them, just in case you did forget to get to them. It's nothing worse than spreading diseases to your whole plants for something that you could have prevented. Two other things you want to have. A pitcher, insecticidal soap. You're going to have pests. They're going to come up. It's just not It's just not smart to think that things are never going to come up. Now, let's just talk a little bit about watering. Watering plays a major key into your plant thriving, but you need to do your own research on what kind of plant you're having. I'm going to talk specifically from pothos, which this isn't a potho, this is a philodendron, but philodendron, pothos, and monsteras. Guys, they like their soil to almost dry out before you water it again. If you are ever in doubt, it's better to underwater than to overwater. We can kind of wake a plant back up after it dies, but once we throw that plant into shock with root rot, it's very hard to get it back. As we talked about with fertilizing and feeding your plant, you definitely want to fertilize your plant more so over the summer and the spring, because that's when your plant is actively growing, which means it's going to be able to get into the roots a little bit faster, go ahead and consume it and let it go. The thing is about when you're fertilizing in the winter months or the fall months is that your plant usually doesn't photosynthesize as much because the light isn't coming in, which means the plant isn't absorbing as much nutrients, which means that it could sit in a pot a little bit longer, which makes things a little bit more adaptable to root rot. And again, we're trying to avoid that. So we definitely want to make sure that we feed our plant with fertilizer more so in the spring and summer. And then during the winter and fall months, you can continue to feed your plant. So food is a food. It's the difference between a food and a fertilizer. Here. Plant food pretty much takes care of the plant's health in general. It just kind of nourishes them all. When you're talking about a fertilizer, fertilizer usually gets into the soil and kind of balances all of the pH level and all that in there to help your plants thrive. So plant food is going to affect your plants directly. Plant fertilizer is going to affect more so your soil directly, which is going to have a direct cause on your plant. Both of them are essential. I usually fertilize my plants once a year. In the summertime, usually around about June, I'll go ahead and fertilize all of my plants, and that's it. The rest is I just continue feeding them. One of the things that I just want to share with you too as we get ready to conclude is that it's important to make sure you wipe your leaves down as well. I know that you've seen me probably wipe down the leaves and probably wonder what I'm doing. It's not just for aesthetic reasons, although I do like a pretty green leaf. It is to make sure that there's no dust or maybe perlite or whatever else is going on around in your space. Wiping these leaves down allows the light to be able to come in to your plant, which is going to allow your plant to be able to grow. And we all want our plants to go ahead and grow and take off. Your plant shouldn't be looking like a baby plant in a year. That means there's some stuff that's just not going right. Congratulations on your plant still being green, but for how long it's going to be green, we really don't know. Now, if you have some stuff going on, like you had to propagate or you had to cut off plant all the way back, that's one thing to take into consideration. But usually, if your plant isn't thriving, then there are a few conditions that are going on, especially the fact that it's still green means we have no root rot, so watering issue isn't a thing. Then we want to just make sure that light is not also a cause. My philodendron Florida greens, they grow pretty rapidly, I would say, especially in comparison to the Florida ghost, which let me show you. Now, the ghost is one of these plants that I've had for about 8 months. I'm just glad at the fact that it's still alive. But you still have to learn how to plant. Both of these are the same genus and they come from the same family, of course. But this is the ghost, which means that the leaf turns white before it shades back to like a green as it matures and get older. I believe. Never had a leaf to fully do it yet. The main important thing is to remember about this is trial and error. You're gonna have some plants that's gonna do good, you're gonna have some plants that's gonna do the bad. It doesn't mean that it's you all the time. Genetics play a major factor into how your plants thrive. I have bought the same plant from different places and they gave me 2 different results under the same conditions, okay? So sometimes it really is genetics, but a lot of times it's you. Because we have to understand that these plants, they can't talk to us. They can't tell us exactly what it needs. So we have to do our due diligence and research these plants and know what it is that we're buying. He can't tell me he needs a lot of light. She can't tell me that she needs some water. So that's why it's up to us to walk around, Monitor weekly, at least once a week. You want to monitor your plant. Get in there, see what's going on. Is your plant thriving? Is it not? Is it producing any new leaves? Because if we're not getting any results from our plants every month, something might just be off, and it's worth paying attention to. All right, guys. So hopefully you found my video helpful. Give me a like, comment, subscribe. Share a few thoughts with me. What was your first plant that you ever purchased? Anyway, I appreciate you being here. You're gone, Sean.